Jambor Dordaning Mijo, Donor Monum Jambor, Nabiata, Agra Dorgon Santo Sherman, Tombatu Janla Ki Jamzar, Cordogar Janya Bungar, the Consoka Vichester. Oning Yambo Rebir Namjerba, Longer Ramjer Zor, Ki Jamzar, Pavazangim Jernyanajar, Condo Zombor number. Jaram Trinidum Zabanja, Nami Jalam Gusham Sar, Tenilai Wambo, Tenilai Wambo, Regerver Dardu Jun, Jumdun de, Division Shopper, Jumba, and Obertoba Sanji Manji, Manji Gerbo, Calavar Terra, Sonte Chambana, Jumdun de Jalam Gusham Sat, Churchu, Don Duco, Churchu, Don Dunican. Regarver Dagdi Jumden de Division Soba Manji Bolander Kitchi Sordo, Jumden de Chujim Choba, Jivi, Chujim Choba de Gan Lak. Jumden de Deep Gap Server, Rigiva, Chujim Choba Gan, Division Sobe Sombo, Lord de Zapmozamotna, Jitin Tamchitam Montamba, Stoberkava, Mumberkava, Kondo Chipperkava, Chava, Jepa, Mamuba, Chance of San Quertino, Kandi, not October. Cosondam do de Gerbushir Taba, German Dobin Corlorton, Parod Shimba Triglesion, Zamba, Namayons, Zon, Chanchi, Chudan, Damba, Chanchi, Yan of Jabrotoba, Semjala, Nerji Chimbonji, Bachamba, Chimbortomba, the Tava, Yerva, Tamjada, Mebada, Tinjam Jerum Jonga, Tamba, Dame, Simpson, Meba, Tromeba, Council Meba, Tombanian, Sama Meba, Mumba, Meba, Mumbrand of Shit. Ngumbrando Mepsipa Martipa, Mamjonga, Damba Shanchi, Number Draba, Chujin Corlo, Rapto Coral, Hadan, Ladan, Nujandan, Chazatan, Hamayan, Namkardan, Mugamchetan, Toshi Chimung, Bornamji Raptor, Tojan, Nobadam Chuji, Rigan Mocho, Chujim Zunzamba, Chujim Jobim Jo, Zigabam, Papa, Kievo, Tamji, Yonzon, Shanjusan, Shoba, Tamje, Yantobertomba, Yantobi 22, Yantober, Balanjiba, Chujim Do. Chujim do Martaba, Dogme Badan, Jangi Bram Jongadan, Zerna Jandan, Sirim Charadan, Nosim Jandan, Lelodan, Jingi Badan, Shirim Charadan, Shirim Jabapa Congadan, Pejir Kurwadan, Tawangambadan, Mubalam, Mumbrizim Batam Jerdan, Rishiba. Sanji Tamji to the bank, Kurji Jodianim, Boamyan, Lendi, Devayan, Tobertomba, Tavim Dordekan, Kayan, Tobertomba, Changadan, Suzur Tobadan, Tambichu. Dupatin, Chujim Choba Jibshago, Rigiver, Chujim Chobana, Chu Gangla, Chusen Nibra Semba, Chula Chujin, the Nandam Sheba, Tenjam Jerum Jon, Tonba, Tar, Tava Tamchatam Jarva, Tia Mepam Jonga Mepala Zoba. Daga Mepa, Simchin Mepa Lanji, Bardina, Kindom Mangarva, Tapa Mepa, Sopa Mepa, Ngaya, Mepa Ngaya, Naran Zambadon, Jarava, Tunla Tunji, Jula Marston, Isila Tunji, Nambrisibala Marston, Bitunjim Dordela Tunji, Chami Tunji, Konsub Mumbala Majin, Mumbra Majin, Ba, Junit, Lartunji, Kanzo, the Stava, Mubran Zambala, Mumbra. Majin ba santi chuni chirta janda kongda chida ba kanji meberan jiga ba kanji yang dagbaran jomba marik bar nambar jivani rikashim nyingan dang mengang domba dang dingmarwa dang yidmub dewa dang chikbi warda nambar jijan tirtir tenjam jiran jongwa yang lop chani landar tarti semjan larta zadma shibar ngumbrib jibim ngumbrib jiba Stavar namla martavan rigdiyo lana mebe chukim choba jivsha go lei wombo tirtir Gerver dagdig te jondan de tevjan shabarman ki gerbo te le chugim choba te stava tobadan jisim tamba chugim zoba tobo gudan gen che tokbar nama jondan de te la par ne tsigndar ka jir me so jondan de tevjan shaba yonsam nyang lende gen tambi chu yonso zonwa dan tambi chu lam chobab jibi la tav dag tambi chu yonso Chungwar chogo, chundande, chartartabkab dittan, chirgorwar nam, chunne chundande, tambi chu yongsan zambaran jirwa ter tarda, tevzhang shakbe shingi vlabda sora, tevzhang shakbe tev, sambam kenne, shimi digi tse na gang, tambi chu ji chungkir kyongzhang, tambi chu ji chungkir kyongzhang, chungwa dang, tambi chu ji chungkir kyongzhang, Yongsan zambar jirwa longton do lai wongbo teni da jirwa dagdik te jino shagba te jig jindo tapi kimne ba rapto shonte gibi chola sunji zamne aneso de sunji zam jan gibi chola rapto ne rom bo malomber ngumber shibarnga ke te zon number to ba konde cheper kero do de pobar dim chaba to be jom den de jan job manji gerbo yonzum nyalen de jam ngumber shiba dan zon ji to ki chonden de 대정 서버 만지 결보티 주진 골로랍도 꾸르전도 varki karabji vardı anjiso kordo le wombo ter tardo gerno dadik dambi chu yongzu zon alam ngumbru zombe semjin shiwa chag chu laname bayan do por chanjil le shirmer do bre kerdo chog 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 chu cho cho jena jena chog 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 chu jena nyantu 냥투 당랑선 지지 덕바를 raptopter도 심진 섬에 바람남 토리 있을게 토리 세 원보디 제 디데나요 런정 디지샤wan 콜로게르 르게르포게르테 억장 엠버냠든 잔나 리 원보 추치 테트르 마타고 데지셔제나 런친 곰초 대전 서바디 제나 디디나 런친 어디지샤wan 콜로게르 게르도 르게르보 런친 어디디 버통요 바테드나 따르디 거랍선 부샹질 선관다도 옌데 Dr. Yende Karazambo and Dala Santi Stone Samra Kirto, Devjano Santi Lokper Tatsir La Soba, Mundo Shunwa, Lama Namjam Jong Kirto, Koranji La Soba, Namzat took over the Santi Namzat Namzala took over the day, Tamana Devjan Soba, Namzat Sharam Jong. He wombo di zena di dina jondan de de so barman di gerbo tambe chu zonwa tang gero da de ji shave de jen yen ba nyam de kyochi ter ter ma ta wo de ji jena he wombo di ze di na gero da de ji shave gerto nga di ze na gero da de ji shave gerto he wombo nam jang di kyang der ter rig ber sha de he wombo chirtana de jong so ba na lam chopa na 초분은 남추 추짐 초반은 초요노 초고당 담바당 초고랍당 깨노바당 라마당 라나메 바고 희원보 데스타베나 나라 zanzangam cho mamchot par chujim chopa chujim chopem choji ngala zanzangam tartang mapshit chuji tartang di rumro rumor kishi
Today's class is on the Vimalakirti Sutra, and today we will then get into the second half of this particular chapter, and then next class will be on the 27th. The 26th, which is the Monday, is in fact the protectors' day over here, protectors celebration over here in Larangar. So we have no class on the 26th, which is the Monday, and then we'll move our last class on Vimalakirti Sutra on the 27th. That is the Tuesday. Is that right? Am I right? In fact, we will finish Vimalakirti Sutra next week, and we'll have in total 66 classes, which is quite an auspicious number for Chinese. And the ornament of Mahayana Sutra was 111 classes in total, and Lotus Sutra was 201. And the Nonjo, or Words of My Perfect Teacher class, was 144 classes, and 4, as you know, means death in Chinese language. But it's good that I'm still alive and you're still alive and listening. How about Lotus Sutra? The Lotus Sutra. Anyone? 63? Quite similar to this one. This one's 66 and the other one's 63 classes in total. Okay. How about Suragama Sutra? So let's continue. The second half of this chapter is the chapter on Dharma Offering. And in this chapter, previously we've already studied that Indra came to the Buddha and started talking about the merit of Dharma Offering. And he would protect and bless the ones who would make Dharma Offering. And over here, also he talked about the the Medicine King Tathagata, where the Moon Canopy Prince went to ask about Medicine King Tathagata, to ask about the merit or how to make offering of the Dharma. As you know, Moon Canopy is the son of the universal monarch, Jewel Canopy. And the Jewel Canopy, the universal monarch, made offering to the Tathagatas for 5 kalpas and asked his sons to do the same. Out of the 1,000 sons of universal monarch and Jewel Canopy, Moon Canopy sat alone and started thinking, might there be some offering that would be exceeding even the wealth offering to the Tathagatas? And because of the Buddha's numinous power, then a celestial being's voice was heard from the space and started saying that a good man, the offering of the Dharma, surpasses all the other offerings. And if you would want to know what Dharma offering is, you should go to the Medicine King Tathagata, and he would explain to you what Dharma what Dharma offering is. So Prince Moon Canopy went to Medicine Tathagata, and he first bowed to the feet of Medicine King Buddha and stood to one side and addressed to the Buddha, saying that, world-honored one, of all the offerings, offering of the Dharma are superior. What are offerings of the Dharma then? So what is it? Could you explain to me? Some people probably don't know what Dharma offering is either. People know what offering is, but what is Dharma offering? Out of all the offerings, the Dharma offering is the most superior. So the Moon Canopy Prince went to the Medicine King Tathagata and asked him this question. And then the Buddha, Medicine King, said, good man, offering of the Dharma are those made to the profound sutras explained by the Buddha. In fact, the Buddhas of 3 times who expounded the profound sutras, the Mahayana sutras, the sutras that taught the ultimate truth, such kind of offering are the offering of the Dharma. And in all the worlds, these kind of teachings or this kind of Dharma teachings are difficult to believe in and difficult to accept. At first, for worldly beings, the Mahayana teachings are very difficult to believe in. There are two types of people who believe in the Mahayana Sutra. Either the person is very stupid because they're very gullible, or it is for the kind of audience who are extremely smart with lots of wisdom, so that through their wisdom they will believe in the Mahayana Sutra. In fact, there are people who believe, but they have a difficulty to accept. They encounter difficulty to completely accept such teachings in their hearts and minds. Sometimes we see that there are people who have great belief in the Mahayana teaching, but they have a hard time to practice and completely accept it wholeheartedly. And even if you can practice it, then the teaching of Mahayana are subtle and difficult to see. There are people who have faith and who practice often, but can they then enter the subtle and profound realization? Then it is very difficult, because there are people who practice for a decade or two. They still do not receive such kind of realization. In fact, such kind of Mahayana teaching surpassed the ordinary thinking, the ordinary discriminative thoughts and practice of mundane beings. And such teaching is pure and without defilement. They cannot be attained with only discriminative thinking. Unlike how the mundane beings would use some logic and some discriminative thinkings, and then they continuously to think, to research and contemplate, and just through these, mundane beings cannot attain such profound teachings. According to Kumar Jiva, he said that the wisdom can be attained through samadhi, but not through discriminative thinking. So, in order to receive the Mahayana teaching, you have to practice meditation often, so that you can calm your mind. And when you develop wisdom through such a way, you'll be able to enter into the profound ocean of Mahayana wisdom. Another way of receiving such a profound teaching is through the blessings of Buddhas and bodhisattvas. You'll be able to receive such profound teaching. Or if you have great devotion, according to Uttara Tantra Shastra, it also says that you can attain the realization of ultimate truth through devotion solely as well. Other than that, other than the previously stated methods, it's very difficult to attain such wisdom. There are so many Western and Eastern scholars who've studied the emptiness as well as Buddha nature aspect of Buddhism, but they cannot attain any further understanding of these, even after studying these kind of subjects for a decade or two. Why is that? It is because that even though they've spent lots of time in terms of their research and study, but they don't really have a sense of devotion and belief. Therefore, their research and study cannot really break that barrier and that boundary. Though they visited many temples, monasteries, and so on, did many research, but without devotion and without samadhi, they won't be able to attain such wisdom. And they're contained in the storehouse of the Dharma of the bodhisattvas. In fact, such kind of storehouse or treasure trove of Dharma is not the state that could be realized from or of the mundane beings. Rather, it is of the bodhisattvas. They're sealed by the seal of Dharani and eloquence and so on. Just as once you seal a document, you can't change it anymore. So it is sealed by the seal of Dharani. Through the Vajra words of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, then you'll be able to. So that is the great Dharma. Just look at the Heart Sutra. Why is it so well known and so popular the whole worldwide? It is because that it is sealed by the Dharani of Bodhisattvas and Buddhas. And once they take to the stages of non-retrogression, yesterday, that child also cried out, but once you took that child to the door, the child stopped crying. So, same as yesterday. Maybe the mother stayed by the door just in case if the child cries. So, to take one to the stage of non-retrogression, because such kind of dharani is such kind of dharma would take you to the non-retrogression and to the accomplishment of 6 perfections, the 6 paramitas, the generosity, precepts, samadhi, wisdom, and so on. The punctuation over here in Chinese language is rather it's actually very weird. I think the person who did the punctuation must have made mistakes without carefully going through the whole content. They discriminate the meaning, the good meanings. So the Dharma has such kind of ability. The kind of teachings that you receive, such as finance and economics, could probably then increase some of the desire in your mind. But the Mahayana teaching, in fact, could help you to gain such discriminative ability to discriminate the good meanings, and they accord with the Dharma of Bodhi. They are supreme among the host of sutras and induct one into great sympathy and compassion. They transcend the affairs of a host of maras and various heterodox views. So after studying Mahayana teaching, then the heart of compassion would naturally increase, and the various heterodox views would naturally decrease. If you have solid wisdom, if you have the stability of wisdom, rather, then such kind of power will be able to transcend and will be able to subjugate various hosts of maras and heterodox views. According to a collection of Zen master Yungjia, he said a person of unshakable wisdom can never be influenced by maras. So Mahayana teaching asks us to then also go in accord with the Dharma of causes and conditions, because it doesn't go beyond this kind of does not go beyond the cause and conditions, the norms of cause and conditions, and they're without self, without person, without sentient being, without lifespan. They teach the 3 emancipations of emptiness, signlessness, wishlessness, and non-activation. In Tibetan text, it also talks about birthlessness as well as non-deceiving, and so on. According to Master Huiyuan or Master Kuiji, in one of their commentaries, it also stated that in the following part, it talks The previous part talks about the characteristics of Mahayana teachings, and the next part then talks about the abilities or capacities of Mahayana Dharma. Today, the teaching is a little bit difficult. I hope you persist anyhow. And it over here talks about, and they are able to make sentient beings take their seat in the place of enlightenment and turn the wheel of the Dharma, just like Shakyamuni Buddha took his seat at the Vajra seat in India under the Bodhi tree and attained enlightenment. And turn the wheel of Dharma. Some of the Buddhas or enlightened ones would turn the wheel of Dharma for 3 times, just like the Shakyamuni Buddha. And they're praised by all the gods, dragons, demonic spirits, such as yakshas, and also Gandharvas, and so on. When the Buddha turns the wheel of Dharma, of course, the gods, dragons, and yakshas, and Gandharvas, as well as other beings would naturally praise the Buddha. For a mundane being who turns the wheel of Dharma, then I think we should rejoice wholeheartedly and with a very pure heart. They're able to make sentient beings to enter the storehouse of Buddha Dharma. Over here, it talks about the doctrine. That is the Tripitaka and the 12 volumes of teachings. So those are the doctrines, Dharma doctrine is. And they accommodate all types of wisdom, of worthiness and sages. Also, to attain the deep wisdom of the Buddhas and bodhisattvas. So that part talks about realization. So there are 2 types of teaching included in Buddha Dharma. That is then the doctrine and the realization. So the 2 aspects. Just as it is said, the Buddha gave 2 types of teachings. One is the doctrine, and doctrine can be attained through listening and contemplation. And the second one is realization, that can be attained through practice. This is quoted from Abhidharma. So the true doctrine, or the propagation of true doctrine, is through giving teachings on the Dharma, as well as listening and contemplation on the Dharma. And then the realization aspect of Buddha Dharma could be attained through practice. So if you were to attain such realization, you would have to then engage in practice, just as how the previous masters carried out their life. I think people nowadays cannot really distinguish the truth, the Dharma, and the heterodox view. A doctor I know often say that I don't know, I can hardly discriminate the right from wrong. And then they explain the path, that is the 6 paramitas, as well as 10,000 of practices or actions practiced by the host of bodhisattvas. So we practice on the same path that was treaded by the hosts of bodhisattvas and great masters from the past. And they rely on the meaning of the true characteristic of the Dharma. Hinayana or Mahayana, in fact, the teaching is common on the emptiness as well as the suffering, the truth of suffering, and impermanent suffering, emptiness, no self, and extinction. They are able to save all sentient beings who commit infractions. In other editions, Tibetan version as well as as well as the Xuanzang's version and the Qianlong Emperor's Tripitaka of this particular version translated by Kumarajiva, it included those the 6 practices or actions that is a complete reverse of the 6 paramitas, such as stinginess that is then contrary to generosity and so on. Commit infractions. What does that mean? It means those people who broke their vows. And it means that the Mahayana teaching can save all the sentient beings who've broken their vows before with great compassion. According to the Mind Mirror, it says that the five greatest sins, as well as the 5 greatest sins, cannot be recovered in the Hinayana teaching, but in Mahayana teaching, you can then purify all of the previous sins by practicing Mahayana confession. And in meditation on the Samadhabhadra Sutra, it also said that for the kind of people who've broken their vows of the lay practitioner's vow, of the Pratimoksha vow, and the vows of shamanas and so on, then you can still practice accordingly to purify your previous previous misdeeds. Anyone aspiring to purify negative karma through confession should recite Mahayana Sutras with diligence, contemplate on the ultimate truth. So this is the method that is stated in the meditation on Samadhabhadra Sutra. What other capabilities it has or merit? The next one, it says that they can render afraid the maras, the heretics, and those attached to desire. For such kind of people, such as maras and heretics, and those mundane beings who have great attachment to desire, in fact, they are not afraid of anything else, but after chanting the Mahayana Sutra, studying the Mahayana Dharma, then they will feel afraid and generate renunciation from this world. They are praised by in fact, there are people who have great attachment to desire. They not only do not fear the suffering of samsara, they mistakenly take samsara as happiness. The other day, I met someone from outside, maybe outside. Do you understand what outside means? Maybe I mean the aliens. And I asked him, how do you feel about about living in this world? And he said, I think living in this world is very good. It's very happy. And I thought to myself, well, if there were a place that is truly very happy to live in, then why bother to aspire to be reborn in samsara, in Pure Land? I could just move there instead of moving to Pure Land. But I think the way he said that is he did not understand the truth of suffering of samsara. According to the way of the bodhisattva, it says that alas, indeed that living beings carried on the flood of bitter pain. However terrible their plight may be, do not perceive they suffer so. So maybe they feel very happy today, but when impermanence downs and how would you feel? In fact, suffering doesn't have a single hair of happiness. Samsara doesn't have a single hair of happiness. And that's the teaching that gives by the Buddhas of the 3 times, not only by the medicine Buddha Tathagata. So all the Buddhas praise such kind of teaching. And until here, it talks about the ability or the capacity of Dharma, of Mahayana Dharma. So the next part, it talks about what is Dharma offering. From this part, it talks about what is Dharma offering by the medicine King Buddha. And he said that one who hears such sutras, such as Vimalakirti Sutra and so on, such kind of Mahayana Sutra, and if they can devoutly understand, accepts, and maintains, reads, and recites them, will with power of skillful means explain them clearly and with discriminative understanding for sentient beings. You need the skillful means. Without such skillful means, you won't be able to then help the sentient beings. When some of our Sangha members first came to Larangar, they really want to turn the wheel of Dharma. They really want to give the teachings of the Dharma, but they don't have such ability yet. But after studying for a long period of time, they have such ability, they no longer wanting to turn the wheel of Dharma anymore. And there are the ones who, after having the ability and have the eagerness, but they cannot find disciples, and they also suffer because of that. And for the kind of people who then have the ability, who also practice well, and at that time they feel that they don't want to turn the wheel of Dharma anymore because they really enjoy their own practice, and they enjoy such a quietude through the practice, and they don't want to go into big cities to turn the wheel of Dharma, and they don't want to retrogress from the path because of the chaos and all the kinds of busy big city chaos. In fact, if your area or your region needs some Dharma teachers, and there are people who told me many times that I really want to then become an abbot of this particular monastery that people offered to me. This is a place that they offered to me. Can I please go there and manage that center, and I will turn the wheel of Dharma? In fact, this is really not that easy. At the beginning, it seems easy, but to maintain a monastery is in fact not that easy at all. At first, maybe you take over this monastery for a while, and after a while, when you make some progress, and then people notice your such progression, they want to take over. Other people want to take it over. Khenpo told me that over here teaching feels sutras and shastras, it doesn't feel like it's very difficult, but when I go outside, it's very difficult to gather people to listen to the teaching, and very difficult to then give even a few classes of teaching. People feel that as long as I'm healthy, I can give teachings whenever and however I want. So I have the 5 perfections. I can have all the followers that I need, all the students that I need. But this is really not as simple as you imagine it to be. Maybe you have the perfect teacher, but you don't have the perfect place. Even if you have the perfect place, it's very difficult to find the perfect subordinates. And even if you have the perfect subordinates, it's very difficult to find the perfect time because people need to go to work. That is very honest. In fact, this is how I feel whenever I go outside. Nowadays, I feel that whenever giving teachings over here is very easy. For 30 or 60 classes is not difficult, and we've already reached the 65th class. But when I go outside, it's so difficult. It's very difficult to even arrange for 5 or 6 classes. So sometimes the 5 perfections of listening to the Dharma can be very difficult to gather such perfect causes and conditions. Even sometimes when I give the teaching, when I want to give the profound teachings, the students require me to give rather easy and simple teachings. So it's very important to have the power of skillful means. You need lots of causes and conditions. So for the new Dharma teachers, to be, if you do not study for 10 or 20 years at least, if you just become a Dharma teacher right away, as much as you're so eagerly of giving teachings of a letter to a good friend or so, maybe you're very eagerly to give the teaching, but the students, they're eagerly of not wanting to listen. So, to give teachings to the sentient beings and explain clearly as well as with discriminative understanding for the sentient beings. This is because the person will be maintaining and protecting the Dharma. In fact, what we're doing is protecting the Dharma of Tathagata, the true Dharma of Tathagata. So the true offering is making Dharma offering, to listen to the mentoring class, tutoring class, participating in the discussion groups, listening to any classes are considered as offering of the Dharma. Nowadays, people would wrap lots of the Dharma offering symbols in their katas and continuously bowing to me. They would think that is making offering. In fact, the true offering is reading, is chanting, is reciting the sutra. Lots of people get up really early in the morning and then they would practice in such a way. I feel very happy for all of those. Nowadays, we're in summer season over here, and it is in fact quite easy and pleasant to get up early in the summer. And when it comes in the winter, it's really cold and it's dark and you don't want to get up early anymore. When I watch some videos of Phuntsok Rinpoche's Dharma assembly video recordings, and I often think to myself, that is the great ability of great bodhisattva, because nowadays such opportunity to gather large crowd to listening and practicing the Dharma is getting less and less. Majority of the people feel that as long as I'm eager to, then the external conditions will be fulfilled naturally, and they will just take it very willingly. And I myself, in fact, think it is really not that easy, because you need such great merit as well as the conditions to be filled. Just as Atisha's teacher whose translator died, and he had to wander around on the Tibetan plateau without giving any teachings. So for some of our Sangha, our Dharma teachers who go out, maybe you don't have such maybe you'll be like the guru of Atisha and wander around in large cities selling stock and making living in such a way without giving any Dharma teachings. Anyhow, this is called the offering of the Dharma. On one hand, our studying, contemplation, and the practice of the Dharma, it generates great merit, and it is very meaningful and valuable. I think previously I also quoted from the Sutra of the 10 Chakras of Earth Store, where it says that in 10,000 million kalpas, a wise man diligently practices meditation and obtain the supreme wisdom of enlightenment. Yet this merit cannot compare to that of protecting the Dharma. So the merit that generates from practicing meditation and obtain supreme wisdom of enlightenment, but this merit cannot be compared with protecting the Dharma, the truth of the Tathagata, taught by the Tathagata. So for those of you, do not belittle yourself and think that I am merely a lay practitioner. I only need to make my own living comfortable. You should not consider and think in such a narrow-minded way. You should not keep such a petty-minded aspiration. Rather, you should make great aspiration to protect the Dharma. And furthermore, when one practices as is explained in the Dharma, one will be in accordance with the 12 factors of causes and conditions, transcend the heterodox view, and attain forbearance of birthlessness of the Dharma. There is definitely no self and no sentient beings, and without retributive results of cause and conditions, there will be such a person, no disagreement, no contention, and transcendence of all qualities of self. So the person, such kind of person will then transcend the 12 factors of causes and conditions, and as a good practitioner, they can accept all kinds of causes and conditions, all kinds of phenomena that appears. They have great acceptance without having to fight for how the external phenomena would appear in front of them or manifest. That is by practicing in accordance with the 12 factors of cause and conditions. And then the next part talks about the 4 things to rely or 4 things not to rely. The first one is that the Mahayana practice or the Mahayana teaching should rely on the meaning of the Mahayana teaching, but not the words. It doesn't matter how flowery and how flattering your words are. The words is like the finger that's pointing to the moon, but it is not the moon, it is not the truth. So words are merely a tool, a skillful means. Therefore, you should not rely on such words. And the second one is that you will rely on wisdom, not knowledge. We should rely on the wisdom of non-dual wisdom of the bodhisattvas, but not relying on our discriminative thoughts and knowledge and such kind of smartness, so to speak. And they should rely on the sutras of comprehensive meaning or the ultimate meaning, and not rely on the sutras of incomplete meaning. So you should not rely on the incomplete meaning or the relative meaning. You should rely on the comprehensive meaning, such as it is taught through Vimalakirti Sutra as well as Lotus Sutra. There are teachings in Buddhism where it says that the killing of father and killing of mother will lead you to liberation. In fact, such words then lead to the meaning that is ultimate. So you should then first understand what the ultimate meaning is without relying on the incomplete meaning. Fourthly, they will rely on the Dharma and not rely on a person. It is important to rely on the teaching but not rely on the person. There are people who said that Tibetan Buddhism is completely wrong, or rather the Tantra teachings is completely wrong because as it is stated by the Buddha that you should not rely on a person, you should not rely on a guru. But that is wrong because you're not relying on the person, you're relying on the guru's understanding and teaching of the Dharma. Therefore, it is still relying on the Dharma. Also, if you do not rely on the person first, how could you receive the Dharma that is taught through him? So, so it talks about the 4 things to rely on, and then the next one talks about they will be in accord with the characteristics of the Dharma. You have to then follow the Dharma in accordance with the characteristics of the Dharma. And once you understand such characteristic of the Dharma, without anywhere that is entered, without any refuge, without anywhere that is entered, that means it is without alaya. Some commentaries it is explained like that. And without any refuge, it means. In fact, without any refuge means without alaya, and without anywhere that is entered, then it is through the ultimate aspect, and it means to destroy the alaya. All the alaya of mundane beings can be transformed into wisdom, because the foundation of ignorance is alaya. So by destroying alaya, then you'll be able to attain wisdom. So ignorance will be thoroughly extinguished, and hence process will be thoroughly extinguished. So thus birth will be thoroughly extinguished, and hence old age and death will be thoroughly extinguished, just as in the 12 dependence is then going backwards. So once you have no birth, then there is no aging and death either. In such a way, if one performs such a contemplation, the 12 factors of cause and conditions will be without the characteristics of being exhausted. There is nothing that has such characteristic. And once you do not have such characteristic, how can you generate a view? So you should not have any view of emptiness or view of characteristics. And once attaining such kind of understanding, this is the most supreme offering of the Dharma. According to a sutra, it says that a Brahmin went to a relative's home, and the relative was not home. So while waiting for the relative, the Brahmin then asked for a book to read, a sutra to read. And he went into the forest and started reading about the sutra on the 12 causes and conditions. The first time reading this book, he did not understand at all. And so he then flipped through and read it the second time. He then understood part of it, and then he then understood this text, and he attained the realization of non-self, and he thought to himself that he had taken everything completely wrong. after understanding such a way, he gave the teaching of the 12 dependents or 12 factors of causes and conditions to others as well. So the 12 factors of causes and conditions is a very important teaching in the teachings of the Buddha. Within the Hinayana as well as Mahayana teachings, in fact, this is one of the most important teaching. Is one of the important teachings as well. Another aspect, another lesson that we can learn from this story is that sometimes through the first time reading a book, we do not understand it at all, or sometimes it takes 2 or 3 or many reads you'll be able to understand. In a book I wrote, it is an interview of 125 university students. Back in the 90s, there were a very small number of university students. But nowadays, there are many, many more university students nowadays. No, I'm only joking. The university students or graduates are still quite great nowadays. There are people who enter into Dharma because of the reading of Heart Sutra or the Diamond Sutra, or by meeting someone on the train and so on. So through different kind of causes and conditions, through different kind of textbooks, and through different kind of people we meet, halfway through, we in fact got in touch or made connections to the Dharma path. And although this is not the age of attaining fruition anymore, but still we are on the path of the Dharma. At least we're spared from the consequences that you may have chose for yourself, such as committing suicide and maybe have severe depression. Anyhow, for those of you who've gained lots of profit from the Dharma, I think whenever you have the opportunity, if you can offer the teachings that you've studied and that benefits you, then you can spread it to others. You can then share the teachings of what you've learned to others, even a person who's sitting beside you on the commute, and so on. And whatever you say, whatever kind of teaching that you share with others could be considered as Dharma offering as well. And maybe the person sitting beside you would attain arhathood first before you. I'm stressing on the point that you don't necessarily having to have a center first to be able to benefit others, to be able to make Dharma offerings and propagating the Dharma. We don't really have to propagate the Dharma just like making a propagation of something that is not true. In fact, if the Dharma is not beneficial, why would we propagate the Dharma at all? We are propagating it, we're disseminating the good teaching only because it's good, only because it is beneficial and positive to other people's life. Let's just think about it. Some practitioners, they may be poor, but they're very happy. They live a very happy life. And there are people who are quite rich, but without being a practitioner, they suffer a lot in their mind. Sometimes when I encounter such people, I really feel that there are people who are rich and there are people who have lots of power. When I am introduced to such kind of people, I often think to myself, such people must carry lots of pressure and lots of anxiety. Lots of arrogance and anxiety and pride is residing in lots of modern people's heart, and we need the Amrita medicine of the Dharma in this age more than ever. So that's something that you should all contemplate upon. And then, to continue, the Buddha told Indra and said that when Prince Moon Canopy heard this Dharma from the Medicine King Buddha, he attained the forbearance of compliance. So, forbearance of compliance in the commentary, some said that this is a stage that is attained before Bhumi, and some of the commentary stated that this is the fourth Bhumi attainment. Anyhow, after listening to it, the Prince Moon Canopy attained something and received some benefit. So, forbearance of compliance, at that time, he must be rather quite compliant and no longer arrogant than how he may used to be, because he was a prince of the universal monarch anyhow. Taking off his jeweled robe and bodily ornaments such as necklace and his earrings and bracelets, all of them, and then he offered them to the Medicine King Buddha and said to him that, world honored one, after your nirvana, when you die or after you die, I will practice the offering of the Dharma and defend the correct Dharma. Because when the Buddha is still abiding in this world before entering into nirvana, the Prince Moon Canopy said that when you're still abiding in this world, you're the one who's propagating, but after you pass into parinirvana, then I will practice the offering of the Dharma. Just as Phuntsok Rinpoche said that after I die, maybe some of my disciples who have great devotion towards me, they will still live in Larunga. So similarly, the Moon Canopy Prince also said to the Buddha, saying that after your nirvana, I will practice the offering of the Dharma and defend the correct Dharma. So please use your numinous charisma and penetration, numinous penetration compassionately, so that I will be able to subjugate the vengeful Maras and cultivate practices of bodhisattva. Please bless me, give me lots of blessings, so that I can then subjugate the vengeful Maras. Because at that time, the Tathagata has already passed into parinirvana, and then without your blessing, I will be very alone. Therefore, please grant your blessing so that I can subjugate the vengeful Maras during the propagation of your correct Dharma, as well as cultivate the practices of bodhisattva to generate bodhicitta, great compassion. In fact, making such kind of aspiration to the masters, to the noble ones, in fact, this kind of aspiration is crucial. When Phuntsok Rinpoche was alive, I didn't dare to make such aspiration out loud, but in my heart, that is the kind of aspiration I made within my heart. The good teacher that you have, although as much as you want to be with such a good teacher forever, such a good teacher is also, it will enter into nirvana, will die eventually. So it is quite important to make such aspiration about knowing this, by then propagate the Dharma. In fact, building stupas and how to protect the bodily relics is not as important as protecting the relics of the Dharma teaching. So, knowing the profound thoughts in the prince's mind, the medicine Buddha made his prediction. At the very end, you will defend the Dharma city. According to the treatise on the common end of myriad good deeds, it says that material giving is like a lamp, which can only light up a small room, while giving of the Dharma is like the sun that can illuminate the whole world. So, protecting anything else is not as important or as great as if you can protect the Dharma city or defend the Dharma city. You can make a stupa, you can then protect the relics, but such kind of merit is just like a small light that can only light up a small room. But if you can make the offering of the Dharma, if you can give the Dharma, then the merit is just like the sun that can illuminate the whole world. You need to differentiate what is more important to protect the Dharma teaching taught by the Tathagata and protect the lineage teaching by reciting, listening, and giving such teaching is of more importance than anything else material. The Buddha told the heavenly emperor, saying that Prince Moon Canopy, then he saw the purity of Dharma. Hearing the Buddha bestow a prediction of future Buddhahood on him, he then developed faith and left home after cultivating good Dharma with exertion for not very long, he attained the 5 numinous penetrations, and very soon he became a bodhisattva. He attained dharani and unending eloquence. So at that time, during the abiding of the Tathagata, the Prince Moon Canopy attained such realization. And then after nirvana of that Buddha, using the power of numinous penetration, dharani, the eloquence that he had attained, he disseminated the wheel of Dharma that Medicine King Buddha had turned for a full 10 short kalpas. In fact, in some commentaries, in some translations, it says it is for 10 medium kalpas. So he propagated such teachings for a long period of time, and at that time they had long lifespans. Not only they made offering for 5 medium kalpas, and he gave teachings. He made offering with his father for 5 kalpas. He made offering with his brothers for 5 kalpas, and he then turned the wheel of Dharma for 10 medium kalpas. So that's 20 medium kalpas together. That's a long period of time. But people's life, our mundane people's life nowadays is quite short. 5 years pass by, another 5 years pass by very quickly. Through his diligent practice and exertion in defending the Dharma, in that lifetime, Moon Canopy Bhikshu converted 1 million kotis of people. So within just a short period of lifetime, because of his exertion and diligence, he then converted 1 million kotis of people who became irreversible in their quest for Anuttara Samyok Sambodhi, and 14 ayutas of people generated the profound inspiration to become Shravakas and Pratika Buddhas. Did I explain it correctly? So 14 ayutas of people. According to the Tibetan version, it says it's 10 ayutas. Is it 10? 10 ayutas of people generated the profound inspiration to become Shravakas and Pratika Buddhas. Immeasurable sentient beings gained birth in the heavens. In the Tibetan version, it says that they gained birth in the 3 higher realms, such as Ashura and human and celestial beings. But over here, it says that they gained birth in the heavens or in the celestial realm. So the Moon Canopy
那么佛陀告诉这个第10天呢，
bodhisattva.
当时的这个
And then the Buddha said, Indra
就是宝盖，就是宝盖呢，就是你不要
was not the Prince Jewel Canopy of that time an unusual person. Do not take him as someone normal or someone mundane. As of now, he has attained Buddhahood and is entitled Jewel Mirage Tathagata.
1000个这个佛啊，就是那么1000个佛的话，
Those 1,000 princes became the 1,000 Buddhas of Bhadrakalpa, or the Kalpa of all good.
前面的这个叫居鲁顺佛，
The first achieved
然后呢
Buddhahood
最
as
后一个如来的号呢，就是叫做是
Krakuchandra, that's the first one, and the last one
生
the last one will be the Tathagata named Roka or Ruchi.
如智如来，就是那么这个就是也就是说
That's the last
中间的有
Tathagata
1000个这个佛
of the
那么这个
1,000 Buddhas. In fact, the Moon
那么
Canopy
当时的这个约盖比丘呢，就是释迦牟尼佛所
was I myself.
他前世
So
的时候呢，就是以这个
that is Shakyamuni Buddha.
受过这样的这个大乘法，也是就是做过这样的这个发供养。
When he was Moon Canopy Princess, he made such great offering, and he made such great practice. Thus, Heavenly Emperor Indra, you should understand this essential point. Out of all the offerings, the offering of Dharma excels all. It is supreme, incomparable. In Tibetan version, it has more, the most, so. It has many more descriptions of its supremacy of the Dharma offering. So in Tibetan, it says the greatest, the most supreme, the most noble, and most so many more descriptions. Therefore, Indra, you should use the offering of the Dharma to make offering to the Buddhas. In fact, making offering of material is really good. Making offering to the Buddha, to the bodhisattva, to the your guru, if you can make offering, that's great. And the best way is to make offering of Dharma offering. Yesterday, someone made a confession to me with tears in their eyes, saying that I would never make material offering again. I will only make Dharma offering from now on. I only get to know the how supreme the Dharma offering is till now. So that concludes the 13th chapter. In the Tibetan translation, it has 12 chapters in total, which combines the Bodhisattva chapter and Disciple chapter together. In the Chinese translation, it is divided into two, and this 13th chapter and the 14th chapter is also combined together in combined together in the Tibetan version. So Zhiqian's version as well as Xuanzang's version is very similar to the Kumarajiva's version, but the Tibetan version is very similar to the Sanskrit version. So I would like to make such note because the content is very much similar, except the how it is divided into different chapters are different. Back in 2017, I in fact looked back into the Tibetan version and the Chinese version. I thought to myself, is it going to have lots of differences? But later on, I realized that the content is very much similar, except how the chapters are divided. Some of the places have some differences, and maybe the translations are done through different copies. So there are different copies, different editions, and different understanding through the different translators. So there are some differences, and we should then accept such small, minor differences, as long as there's no major differences. So we conclude this chapter today. And we have one chapter left, and we'll have the class on next Tuesday.
到时候我们可能讲那个下个礼拜这堂课的时候呢，
Next
做一个简单的回顾嘛，
Tuesday, we'll have a very simple offering,
稍微的一个简单的回顾，
which
讲了
then
61堂课，就是非常
will conclude and will celebrate the 66 classes that we've had that completes the entire teaching of the Vimalakirti Sutra. For those of you who listen to this teaching and who then have groups to listen together, then you can prepare maybe a candy and a soft drink. Over here, you should not buy much stuff, otherwise we have too much. But we will then make a short talk offering to show our gratitude towards the protectors who protected us to completely finish our teaching smoothly, and gratitude towards the Buddhism Bodhisattva's blessings through the practice of ring of blessings of 7-line prayer.